How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying. What are we studying today? Revenue. Dude, what? Is this what it? What's this? Alright, what? Is this? Okay, why not? Alright, Kuf Lamed Vav? Yeah, why not? And I think we're studying today Daf Kuf Lamed Vav. I certainly hope so. Alright. Daf Kuf Lamed Vav of Masechta BavaBasra. Friends. We're gonna do stuff about like inheritance. Okay, we're gonna start the Mishnah on Daf Kuf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, about 5, 6, or 7 lines or so into the Daf Kuf Lamed Vav Amud Aleph at the Mishnah. So if somebody's writing his Nechas of Levanov, if somebody's writing his estate to his kids, why would he do that? Well, let's say he was married and his wife passed away and he has a bunch of kids, and now he's getting remarried. Now he's going to marry a second wife, and he wants to make sure, he wants that if he dies, his first wife is gestorben. His second wife, his property, his estate is going to be meshubed to her ksuba. She'd be able to collect it from his estate. Now he wants that, he doesn't want that though. He wants the full estate going to his kids. So he wants to give the estate to his kids already now before he gets married, so that the estate is not meshubed to the ksuba. So if somebody writes his property to his kids, Sorry, Mom. So he has to write from today, and what does that say? What does that say? Flour, oils, and flour. Okay. So he has to write from today and after I die, right? So fine. He has to write. The important thing is he has to write from today. Okay, so right, me'ayom ulachar misa. Okay, from today and after I die. And that, 1 second. I'm reading the Rashbam. Exactly. So me'ayom ulachar misa, meaning that from today already, the property itself will belong to the kids. However, the right to enjoy the fruits will still belong to the father until he dies. After he dies, then the children, in addition to owning the property, will also be able to own the rights to the fruits as well. That is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, that you have to say mehayom. Rabbi Yossi me'enu tzarich. Rabbi Yossi says you don't have to write mehayom, and the Gemara is going to explain why. We've seen this Inyan before, probably Masechta Gittin or something. Fine. So now, fine. If somebody writes, I feel like so uncomfortable right now. I don't know why. Should I roll up my sleeves a shtickle? So if somebody writes, let me pause the video 1 sec. Okay, so if somebody writes his property to his son, I don't know, I guess he wants to give it to, let's say, one of his sons. So the achar, right? So meaning again, it's based on me'ayom l'achar misa. So basically, the guf hakarka, the property itself, belongs to the son from today, but the rights to enjoy the fruits will still be retained by the father until he dies. After his death, the guf and the peiros will then belong to his son. Ha'av eino yachol limkor, so the father can't sell the property because he doesn't own it. The son technically owns the property, so he can't sell the property, though he could sell the right to the fruits. And the son can't fully sell the property because the father still retains the rights to the fruits. So what if the father did sell the property, i.e. his rights to the property, i.e. the fruits? So whoever buys from the father would be able to enjoy the fruits of the property until the father dies. When the father dies, then the father only owned the rights to the fruits. Once the property itself belonged to the son, and when the father dies, then the rights to the fruits also goes to the son. So basically, the father sold to the other person the rights to the fruits so long as he's alive. Once he's dead, so then the property belongs to the son entirely with the fruits. Machar ben, if the son sells the property, right? He owns the property itself. So in lokech ben klumat yomosav. So the buyer owns the property, but again, the father still owns the rights to the fruits until he dies. So the buyer would be unable to benefit from the fruits of the property until the father dies. Once the father dies, so then the buyer will own in addition to the property itself, the fruits as well. Azoy. Says the Gemara, V'chikosav me'ayom ula'achar misa mai havik. Why does it work when the father writes me'ayom ula'achar misa, from today and after misa? Why does that work? Hatanan, after all, we learned by Gittin, me'ayom ula'achar misa get ve'enu get. If you say that this is your get from today and after misa, so then it's a suffix get. Ve'emes choletzes v'lo misabemis, and therefore if he dies and there's no children, so then she would not do yibum in case it was a divorce. Then it would be grusha sochiv, and that's a problem. But also, right, so you would not do yibum, but at the same time you have to do something, since meaning you cannot do yibum in case it was a divorce, and you also cannot do nothing because if it was not a divorce and they were married, so there is a chiyuv yibum, so you have to do chalitza. So why are we saying that if he writes mayom ula'achar misa in terms of giving his estate to his son, so we say, well, okay, so the guf is from today and the peiros achar misa, but when it comes to gin, we say it's completely a suffix. Well, hasam esapklan itanoyo have ichazor have. Well, over there, it's simply a get, and the question is it a valid get or is it an invalid get? Is it a valid get that he's saying, be'etzem, you're divorced from today if I die? Or is it an invalid get because he's saying that you're only, or is it a chazar? Is he taking back what he says? He's saying that you're not divorced from today, rather only after I die, which is an invalid get. 1 second. Okay, where am I? Okay. Alright, fine. Wait, where am I? Okay, fine. Right, so is he saying that you'd be divorced from today when if I die? Or is he saying that, when he says from today and then he says imat, he says no, not from today, actually when I die, but you can't have ein get la'achar misa. This is what he's saying, gufa koni me'ayom per la'achar misa. But over here, you could differentiate between the guf and the peiros. So what he's saying, Mimele, is that I'm giving you the father is saying to the son, I'm giving you the property itself today, but the fruits you'll only have after misa. So saying me'ayom ula'achar misa, from today the guf hakarka, la'achar misa the peiros. So the Mishnah had said, Rabbi Yossi says that you do not need to write me'hayom. Rabbi Bar Avua cholash. We saw this in Masechta Gittin. Rabbi Bar Avua cholash. Rabbi Bar Avua was sick. Rabbi Bar Avua was the Rebbe of Rav Nachman. Legabi Rav Huna Rav Nachman. So Rav Huna and Rav Nachman went to visit Rabbi Bar Avua. Omar le Rav Huna Rav Nachman. Now Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, Be'imine, ask Rabbi Bar Avua, halachi Rabbi Yossi and halachi Rabbi Yossi. Rav Huna asks Rav Nachman to ask Rabbi Bar Avua if the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, that you do not need to write me'ayom, or is it like Rabbi Yehuda that you have to write me'ayom? So Rav Nachman says to Rav Huna, wait a second, I don't really understand Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Why does Rabbi Yossi say that you don't need to write me'ayom? Halacha iboy minei. How right? And I'm going to ask Rabbi Bar Avua if the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. I don't even understand Rabbi Yossi's opinion b'chlal, and I'm just going to go and jump and ask Rav Huna, Rabbi Bar Avua, is the halacha like Rabbi Yossi or not? I don't really understand Rabbi Yossi's opinion to begin with. So Omar le, so Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, at be'imine, look, you just ask Rabbi Bar Avua if the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi or not. Ya halacha olo, ilo, v'taime ono aminalach, and I will tell you, and then afterwards I will tell you I will explain to you Rabbi Yossi's opinion. Ba'amine, so Rav Nachman asks Rabbi Bar Avua, Omar Le, and Rabbi Bar Avua says to him, Hachi Omar Rav, that thus says Rav, halacha ki Rabbi Yossi, that the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, which of course makes sense. Machluchas Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi, we pass like Rabbi Yossi. Basar dinafku Omar Le, and then after they retreated from Rabbi Bar Avua's, from where Rabbi Bar Avua was, Omar Le, so Rav Huna says to Rav Nachman, Hainu time the Rabbi Yossi. This is why Rabbi Yossi says you do not need to say me'ayom, you do not need to write me'ayom to Omar, because he says zmanu shel shtar mochiach olav, that the time written in the document be'etzem tells you me'ayom. So it's redundant to write me'ayom ulachar misa because there's already a date from today. So that kind of counts for me'ayom, and that would be enough to have the guf hakar me'ayom and the achar misa for the pairs. Tanam Yochi v'ochet learn in a brayso like this. Reb Yossi Omer says, Reb Yossi eno tzarich, you don't need to write me'ayom mipnei shezmanu sheshtar mechiach olav, because the time that's already written into the document tells us that it's me'ayom. Ba'amine Rave me Rav Nachman. So Rave asks Rav Nachman, Be'aknoya mau. Oh, Givaldi. So Rava asks Rav Nachman, what if there is a kinyan? What if there is a kinyan written into the shtar, right? If there was if the shtar says that a kinyan was made, that in front of witnesses a kinyan was made, so do you still need to write mehayom? Or is it enough that a kinyan was made? Mau, Omar Le. So Rav Nachman says, Ba'aknoya eno tzarich. If there's a kinyan, if the shtar mentions that there was a kinyan, well then you don't need to write the date. So if Papi Omar, so if Papi says, Ika aknaisa de tzarich v'ika aknaisa de lo tzarich. Well, there could be an example of a shtar that mentions a kinyan that would nonetheless require me'ayom, and there's a kinyan in the shtar that would not require me'ayom. Aknaya v'kanino minei lo tzarich. So if what the document says is that the witnesses say that the I guess in this case the father said make a kinyan, right? I guess let's make a kinyan sudar. Okay, v'kanina minei, and then later on in the document at the end it says, and we did this. So in that case we don't really need it to say and we did it, because it already says that we said v'kaninim, right? Kilu, right? The it already says aknai, meaning we're saying that the father said make a kinyan. Okay, so some of they made a kinyan. So why does it say v'kanina minei and we did make a kinyan? It's extra. It's extra to say that that's in lieu of needing to say me'ayom. So kanina minei ve'aknaye, but if it says that we made a kinyan ve'aknaye, and then it says later on that and he instructed us to make to be koneh tzarich, well then you have to write me'ayom, because in that case we need both lashonos. We need the lashon of kanina and aknaya, meaning if it initially had said in the document kanina minei that we made a kinyan, well then we need to explain why did you make a kinyan? Well, because he told us to make a kinyan, right? So kanina minei is we made a kinyan, aknaya is well he instructed us to make a kinyan. So we need both of those. So there's nothing extra to count for me'ayom, to be for me'ayom. So in that case you would have to write me'ayom. All right. Maskeflor of Chanino. Misur Rav Chanina asks from Misura asks, Mi'ika midi, like this, as I'm sure you could tell, this is extremely technical stuff. This is extremely technical stuff here. That depending on if he says aknaye v'kanina mine or kanina mine ve'aknaye, that would dictate whether it needs to say me'ayom or not. That's very technical stuff. So Maskefla Rav Chanina Misuri asks, Mi'ika Midi, is there anything to onon lo yadinon that we have trouble with it? We don't know these technicalities of which word was first. V'safra yade, and the scribes of the Bezdin know these halachas. If we don't know it, how would they know it? Shalunu, the Safri Dabai, well, they asked the scribes, of, I guess, the court of Abai, V'yade, and they taka knew. Yeah, they knew this halacha. The Safri de Rava, V'yade, and the scribes of Rava, they also knew it. Okay, so I guess that they know these things. Look, regardless of if it says aknaye, v'kanina minay bein, kanina minay v'aknaye, lo tzarich. Now, in both of those scenarios, right, if it mentions the kinyan, then you don't need to write me hayom. Like it's like Rav Nachman had said, right? Rav Nachman baknoy mayu amar baknoy no tzarich, right? So regardless if you say aknaye v'kanina minay or kanina minay v'aknaye, lo tzarich, you don't need to write me hayom. Uveduchrin pisgome davian pono plige. The machlokes about between Reb Yehuda and Reb Yossi about do you have to say me'ayom or not is when there's no mention of a kinyan. Specifically, beduchron pisgame, when it's mentioning words, when it's mentioning something that happened. Dave ban pono, that it was in front of us. Plige, that is where they right that the father had said to the son that I'm giving you my state. So then it's machlokes between Reb Yehuda and Reb Yossi. Do you have to say me'ayom? Does he have to write me'ayom? Omer of Kahana, says of Kahana, Miso the Shmaita coming to Rav Zvid. I said this sugi before Rav Zvid. Min Ardov ve'Omer li, and he said to me, Atun ochi masnisula. Look, you teach it as a question, right? If you back up like 10, 15 lines to the initial question, right? That Ba Minei Rav Nachman Bakno Mahu. What's the halacha when it comes to Akno? So Anan Achi Masninan, back in 4 lines from the bottom, Anan Achi Masninan, but we don't teach it as a question, rather as a statement. Rav says, Rav Nachman Ba'akno Eino Tzarech, that when it comes to Akno, there is no need, if there's a kinyan in the document, then there's no need for, everyone agrees that there's no need for Me'ayom. Bein Aknaye V'kanina Minei, Bein Kanina Minei V'aknaye, Lo Tzarech, you wouldn't need to write Me'ayom. However, beduchron pisgami davuban pono plige. If it's just mentioning that the father had said to the son in front of us that he's giving him the estate, well then that is where there's machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda says you'd have to write me'ayom, and Rabbi Yossi says you would not have to write me'ayom. So now the Mishnah said akosiv nechosav ivno la'achar mosu. So if a person writes so if a father writes his estate to his son, lachamo, so meaning mayom lachami, so that from now the property belongs to the son, but the father retains the rights to the fruits until he dies. After that, then after the father dies, so then the property and the fruits belong to the son. Itmar was stated, Machar aben b'chayav, umeis aben b'chayav. Interesting. You hear this? So there was this deal, right? The father says to the son, Me'ayom l'achar misa. So the son now owns the guf hakarke, but the father retains the rights to the peiris for the rest of his life. Now the son sold the property to a lokeach, a third party, a lokeach, a buyer. Okay, so you have the father, the son, and the lokeach. So now the lokeach, of course, bought the guf hakarke. Okay. The father still had the rights to the fruits. Now, if the father dies, so then the son, so the father dies, then the son essentially gets the rights now to the property and the fruits, and he had sold that to a third party, so the third party now has all of it. But what if the son dies and the father is still alive? So now what? If the son had sold the property to a third party, while the father was still alive, and then the son dies while the father is still alive. Rabbi Yechanan says that the lokeach, the third party, does not own the property at all. Rish Lakish says that the third party indeed does own the property. Now the father, of course, still retains the rights to the fruits for the rest of his life. But the question is, who owns the property. Rabbi Yochanan Omar lo kana lokeach. Rabbi Yochanan says that the lokeach is not kona because kinyan peres kinyan aguf dami. Because owning the fruits are like owning the property itself. That and therefore, since the father retains the rights to the fruits, he retains the rights to the property itself. When the son dies, the son, so the son is dead. The lokeach has no right to this property. The father has the right to the fruits. He has the rights to the whole property. He owns the property. Whereas Rish Lakish says that the lokeach is kone, because kinyan peres lav kinyan aguf dami. That just because you have the rights to the fruits doesn't mean that you own the property itself, and therefore the son had sold the property to a third party. The property belongs to a third party. Sure, the father can continue eating the fruits so long as he's alive, but he doesn't own the property itself. But 1 second, we already have this machlokes already about between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish about kinyan peres kinyan aguf dami or not. The itmar, because it was teramo. We've seen this before. How many times have we seen this before? Twice, apparently. Hamocher sadeu leferis, that if somebody sells his field, but just for the fruits, okay, that somebody sells a field to another person, but they only have the rights to the fruits. The field itself still belongs to the original owner. Rabbi Yochanan says that a person can bring the first fruits of that field, i.e. the person who acquired the fruits, can bring the first fruits of that field, and can also say, right, can read mikra bikurim, right? Ha'adoma asher nasatali, could say the land that you gave to me, even though he only owns the fruits. Whereas Rish Lakish says he brings the bikurim, but he does not do mikra bikurim. Rabbi Yochanan says he brings the fruits and does mikra bikurim because kinyan peres kinyan aguf dami. Because kinyan peres is kinyan aguf. That since he owns the peres, he owns the guf ochit, and therefore he could say Adama shena satali. Rish Lakish says maybe ve'enu korei, he brings the fruits, but he does not do mikra bikurim because kinyan peres lav kinyan aguf dami. He owns the fruits, but not the property itself. So the question is, why do we need this machlokes both by the father and the son, as well as by bikurim? So Amalach Rabbi Yochanan will say to you, Af al gav di ba'alma kinyan peres kinyan aguf dami. Even though in general we would say kinyan peres kinyan aguf dami, but we still need the case of the father and the son, because hocha itztrich sakadatich amina may have taught to say abba legabe brei achule ochil, that a father, when giving it to his son, he would be mochel and say, okay, fine, my son owns the property. Kamash Malan, that no, since he owns the rights to the fruits, he owns the property itself. The Reb Shimon ben Lakish Omar, and says Rish Lakish, Afal Gav di ba'almo kinyan peres lav ki kinyan aguf dami, that even though in general we would say owning the fruits does not mean that you own the property. However, hocha, in this case, where the father retained the rights to the fruits for himself, meaning in the case of bikurim, it's fakir, right? The owner is selling the fruits. We're saying, okay, so the buyer owns the fruits, not the field. But here, where it's fakir, the father is retaining the fruits for himself. I may have thought that since he's leaving, once he's leaving for the fruits for himself, that if he's even though he's giving the property, even though it's a father giving his estate to his son, since he's retaining the rights to the fruits, maybe he retains the rights to the property as well. So Kamash Malon, that no, even there we say he only retains the fruits but not the land. Kinyan peres lav kinyan aguf dami there as well. Eis Rabbi Yochanan the Rish Lakish. Rabbi Yochanan asks a kasha to Rish Lakish. Nichsai loch ba'achrecha yirash ploni ba'acharav yirash ploni. That you have a guy, a shchiv mira, I don't know, you have a guy, he says, my estate goes to you, okay, and afterwards to so-and-so, and afterwards to so-and-so. Well, he says to guy number one that my property goes to you, and then after you, guy number 2 is going to inherit it. You're going to inherit, and then after guy number 2, guy number 3 is going to inherit. Okay. Meis Rishon. So when guy number 1 dies, Kono Sheni. So guy number 2 gets it. Meis Sheni. When guy number 2 dies, Kono Shlishi. Guy number 3 gets it. Now, Meis Sheni B'chaye Rishon. However, if when guy 1 has the property, meaning the original guy died, guy 1 now has the property, and while guy 1 still has the property, guy 2 died out of order. He wasn't supposed to die yet. He was supposed to wait for guy 1 to, right? Guy 1 was supposed to die first, then guy 2, then guy 3. But guy 2 died while guy 1 was still alive. So in that case, Yachzu Nechosim Liyorshe Rishon. So then, when guy 1 dies, the property does not go to guy 3, rather it goes to guy 1's heirs. Now, if so, that Kinyan Paris Lav Kinyan Aguftam, because ultimately, guy number 1 really only owns the fruits, right? Because when he dies, it goes on to the next person. So basically, he just owns the rights to enjoy the property so long as he's alive. So basically, he only has the fruits. So now, we're saying that if guy 2 dies, while guy 1 is still alive, when guy 1 dies, it does not go to guy 3, rather goes to guy 1's heirs. Now, why does guy 1 own it? Oh, he only had access to the fruits. Doesn't it sound like Kinyan Paris, Kinyan Aguftam? Vim Isa, if what you're saying, Rish Lakish, is correct, that Kinyan Paris Lav Kinyan Aguftam, that means that guy 1 doesn't actually really own it. When guy 1 dies, therefore, it should go not to his heirs, but to the heirs of the original guy. Vim Isa Liyorshe no sen mi ba'ilei. It should go to the heirs of the original guy, since guy 1 never really owned it. He only owned the rights to the fruits. So from the fact that it goes to guy 1's heirs, it implies that having the rights to the fruits is actually a right to the land itself. So Omarle, so Rish Lakish says no. Kinyan Paris Lav Ki Kinyan Aguftam. Okay, but if that's the case, then why does it go to guy 1's heirs? Because Kvar Tirgma Rav Hoshai beBavel, Rav Hoshai explained in Bavel, Acharecha Shiny, that it's different here because the original person had made it clear that he doesn't retain anything in the estate. He gave his estate to guy 1. After guy 1, if there's anything left over, we'll give it to guy 2. After that, to guy 3, meaning he made it clear that nothing, he's not retaining anything for himself. And therefore, it won't go back to the original guy. And since guy 2 died too early, so that kind of messes up the whole flow, and it just goes to guy 1's heirs. V'chein Rami, Rabbi Bar Ravuna, Kamid Rab ve'Omar Acharecha Shani. Rabbi Bar Ravuna asked the same kasha before Rav, and the answer was Acharecha Shiny. Okay, that since he says that it's afterwards, it goes to so and so. So then, therefore, the first guy doesn't retain anything. Interesting, but there's a brayso that says that Taka, it does go back to the original guy, implying that the fact that guy number 1 had access to the fruits does not give him the right to the property, and it goes back to the original person, implying that Kinyan Paris Lav Ki Kinyan Aguftam, it's Kasha and Rabbi Yochanan Tanoihi. So we say, okay, it's Machlokas Tanoim. Whether we say Kinyan Paris Ki Kinyan Aguftam or not is Taka Machlokas Tanoim. The Tana that we learned in the Bible said, Nichasai loch ba'acharecha lefloni. My property goes to you, and then afterwards to so and so. V'yorad Rishon u'machar v'achol, and then the first guy sold it. The first guy sold it. You hear that? The first guy sold it. Taka. Okay, so Shaila is, did he have the right to sell it? Rebbe says, the second guy can take it away from the buyer. Because the first guy had no right to sell it. He only had right to the fruits so long as he's alive. Afterwards, it goes to the second guy. And Kinyan Paris, Lavki Kinyan Aguftam, like Rish Lakish. So therefore, the second guy could take it away from the Lokeach. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, Ein lo sheni ela ma sheshir rishon. No, the second guy only has access to anything that the first guy left over, but the sale is valid because Kinyan Paris, Kinyan Aguftam, like Rabbi Yochanan, that the first guy owned the fruits and he owned the property itself and he could sell it. Whatever's left over goes to the second guy. We have a contradiction. So we fakir. Okay, my property is to you and afterwards to so and so. Yored Rishin umocher v'ocher. The Rebbe says that the first guy can go and sell it. Implying like Rabbi Yochanan, kin peris kin aguftam, he can go and sell it. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel ein li rishin ela achilas peris bavad. And Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel says that the first guy can only consume the fruits. That sounds like kin peris lav kin aguftam, like Rish Lakish. It sounds like Rebbe and Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, his father, are backwards. Kasha the Rebbe with Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rebbe contradicts himself as does Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, his father. Rebbe lo kasha. No, Rebbe is no problem. The first one, when he says that he cannot sell it, and the second one that says that he can sell it, halagufa v'alapera. When he says that he can sell it, he can sell the fruits. When he cannot sell it, he cannot sell the property itself because kinyan peris lav ki kinyan aguftam. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel lo kasha. Also, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel does not contradict himself because lechatchila di'evet, meaning lechatchila Reuven should not go and sell things because lechatchila Reuven should just eat the fruits. Should not go sell it because clearly the giver wants it also to get to Shim. The first guy shouldn't eat it because the giver wants it to get to the second guy as well. But if he did, well, kinyan peis kinyan aguftami, and okay, b'diavad, it would be a good sale and it would work. Okay, friends, that was daf kuf lamed vav Masechta BavaBasra. There's a lot of interesting stuff on this daf. Right, there was this machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yossi about when a father gives property to his son, to his children, when he's alive, does he have to say me'ayom ulachar misa? Rabbi Yehuda says yes. Rabbi Yehuda says you don't have to say me'ayom because manu shashtam mechiach olav. And then we also saw the machlokas between Rabbi Yochanan and Rish Lakish about kinyan peris ki kinyan aguftami or not. Rabbi Yochanan says kinyan peris ki kinyan aguftami. Rish Lakish says kinyan peris lav ki kinyan aguftami. Very interesting. Peace out.